It's Lycos Lore and Cameron with the next, and today we're talking about bosses. We're continuing our adventure from last time, where last time Cameron with the next took us down memory lane through some of the older games, going through some of those bosses, some of which are cuter than others. Others should never have been put on this earth in the first place, but we can't control the past. So I am going to take us down through more modern Sonic gaming, and we're going to go to Sonic Generations, and then maybe we could do another episode on even more modern bosses. So
post-modern bosses, perhaps.
Yep. So
we had like what? We had classic bosses, modern bosses, postmodern bosses,
basically
beyond modern bosses.
So our adventure would normally start with Sonic Adventure, but we are kind of skipping this because there are 4 categories of boss in this game. We have Eggman, we're not talking about. Chaos, which we did talk about. The E series, which we already talked about, and other characters. That's literally all the boss types in this game. It's hilarious.
Yeah, so I mean, we did a whole episode on Chaos.
We could
do a whole episode on Eggman.
We did a whole episode on the E series too, so
incredible.
So the next game after that was Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure, which almost all of these bosses are more of Eggman's robots. Except for 2.
Okay.
One of which is the boy in red who doesn't like to chuckle. The 4th boss is Knuckles.
Oh, well, I guess that's fair, right? Because he's a boss. You fight him.
Yeah, because, I mean, I remember, in some games he was an antagonist. I mean, technically, you could even say Sonic Adventure because you do have to fight him as Sonic. And the
Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I would consider him to be an antagonist.
Yep. The other boss is not even new to this game. He is actually from Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It is Mecha Sonic, the gray one. And
which game are we talking about right now?
So we are talking about Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he is the 5th boss. And his boss fight is literally the same as it was in Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Tell me more about Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure. Is that like a precursor to Sonic Adventure?
Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure, it was for the Neo Geo Pocket Color.
Check that out, because I was like, if it's got adventure in the name, it must be similar to Sonic Adventure, but this just looks like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, it's gameplay-wise, it's closer to Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And it's basically your goal is to get to the end of each stage within 10 minutes.
So it's like a time trial game. And you were saying the bosses, that there's a little bit of Knuckles in there. There was Mecha Sonic in there.
So those 2 are like the only kind of unique bosses for this game. All the other bosses are Eggman and a variety of attachments and mechs. Because Eggman, I'm skipping your mechs. I'm sorry, dude. You got too many. So our next game was Sonic Adventure 2.
Oh, the good one. The good one. Yep. It's one of my favorite games.
So the first boss we are talking about is the F-16 Bigfoot.
That's the hotshot gun, right? Flies around?
Yeah. Hotshot is actually a different boss, but it is like that same type of mech.
Oh, okay. This is the one that's got the big legs, and then Hotshot's the one that just floats, right?
Yeah, Hotshot is the one that flies around and that you fight as Rouge. These things are not Eggman robots, they are gun robots. And they start hunting down Sonic because they think he's a criminal, because apparently blue and black look too similar. Like at night, I can kind of see it, except like the lighting's pretty good, and also Shadow's got like the red, so I don't know, man. I think that gun is kind of stupid on this one. Yeah.
We don't discriminate by crow color.
So as we just discussed, there's a lot of variations of it. There is the Hot Shot, which actually I was wrong. Hot Shot's not the one that flies. It's also very similar to Bigfoot. The one I was thinking of was Flying Dog, because that's the one where it's always in the air.
That makes sense.
And then there's also Bigfoot Type A and Bigfoot Type B.
There's a lot of gun robots.
Yeah, which Flying Dog and Hot Shot are also Sonic Adventure 2, but Bigfoot Type A and B actually appear in Shadow the Hedgehog, which makes sense because we got a lot of continuation of like gun technology. because we see
Oh.
upgraded versions of like the gun mechs that are like the general enemies in the game.
Yeah, I'm seeing that now. I guess we don't see a lot of gun type enemies aside from in Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic Adventure 2, and Sonic 06? Are they in Sonic 06?
Gun robots? No, because the robots we're fighting in 06 are Eggman.
Oh, okay.
The Sonic media, we actually see these a lot, is Sonic X, funny enough, because they mass produce the heck out of these in that media.
Oh, yeah.
And also it's weird because for like the Bigfoot style ones, they're like, oh, they're just robots, even though there's clearly a cockpit. So I'm like, no, there's a person in there. And then it's like, just shows a whole bunch of them just explode. It's like, oh, yeah, those people
That's a lot
dead.
of people dying.
Yeah, that's a lot of people dead.
I mean, like, maybe there's a version of those gun robots that, like, don't need a pilot so they can run without them. And that's what they mean, like, the robot versions of them with, like, a robot pilot, maybe?
I strongly disbelieve this only because, like, one, they look the same. And second, even modern variants of this have pilots still, as we see in Shadow the Hedgehog Dark Beginnings. In the third part, they are attacked by a version of these kind of robots that I will actually get into later, but that still has a pilot.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
So
now,
again,
not really a robot per se.
It's a mech
more
suit.
An exoskeleton.
Yeah.
A mech suit. Yeah.
The next boss I want to talk about is actually the one who inspired this series of videos for me, is King Boom Boo. This guy,
boss.
This guy creeped me out as a kid. I hated him.
Oh, same for me. Something about a big, bulking blue ghost with a rainbow tongue and bulging eyes laughing at me and cackling as he bounces around. Hated it. Hated it. Almost hated it as much as Scorpius.
But actually, I will give you that. No, they are both terrible. Except Scorpius doesn't trigger like a fear in like my heart, because like my kid like heart, I'm like, yeah, if ghosts are real, yeah, I'd be afraid. I can't do anything about them. They're just there. True. So the reason this was inspired by King Boo Boom is in Sonic Adventure, he just kind of shows up. There's no reason. It's just, oh, there's a giant ghost boss that you have to fight. However, did you know that this guy has lore?
Where, in Sonic Adventure 2?
No. King Boo Boom got lore 2 months ago.
That's pretty really?
Yes, on the Tails tube, of all things. We actually get a backstory for King Boo Boom.
Check that out. October 31st, 2024. The Scary Story Spooktacular on Tails Tube.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9.
Yeah. So his story is, many years ago, there was a king and a squad of his most loyal knights going into a pyramid to search for an amulet of immortality. And throughout their quest, one by one, the knights just vanish. And by the time the greedy king gets to the amulet and turns around, all of his knights are gone. And he's
alone. Ooh.
On his way here, he was lost in thought about this, having this or immortality, this ultimate pendant. He knew the tales that there would be some price he would have to pay. And of course, in his mind, he's like, oh, I have all of these super loyal knights. I can easily pay whatever price it may be. So once he gets to it, he goes and he grabs this amulet, happy that he finally claimed his prize. Unfortunately, shortly after, like almost immediately after, the king is no more. For he did not know that the price was in fact himself, but he did become immortal in a way. He became King Boo Boom.
As a ghost.
Mm-hmm. And his loyal knights became some of the ghosts that he is in command of.
Wow, what an interesting way to bring a boss character's lore, I guess, to the present time.
Yeah, I just thought that was super interesting that, again, almost 20 years later, we're finally giving backstory to this really weird boss.
And it feels canonical because it was on Tails Tube. And I think all the stuff that's been happening on like the more recent like Sonic social media stuff is canon, I think, right?
I am on the boat where the Sonic social media stuff right now, like unless specifically stated, I'm seeing it as canon.
To be fair, I think they're saying that in this episode that it is a legend, like the legend of the Greedy King. So it's canon that it's a legend, but it's not like confirmed that it's definitely King Boom Boo. Although if you imagine that the way that they animate it, because I do see pictures of like
there is
the king with his tongue out like that. And it looks scarily similar.
And also the fact that it is in a pyramid, which that is where Eggman made his base in, so
That's
that
true.
would track with where you fight King Boo Boom.
The details certainly match up. Suspicious.
And
That's cool though.
I know, I love that.
I think we were kind of mentioning maybe on a previous episode that it seems like Sonic the Hedgehog, like the folks who are in charge of the lore, are doing a little bit better of kind of tying loose ends together.
Or at
and
least,
this is a pretty good example of that.
Giving us a reason why things are there, which
exactly.
Again, we like that because as we've talked about, in modern gaming, you kind of can't get away with the, oh, this is here. Why? Oh, it's just there. Like, that was kind of like an older, like, late 90s, early 2000s kind of thing, but you kind of can't get away with that in gaming now because people are more inquisitive. They want to know the why and the how and see if there's deep lore there.
That's cool, though.
The story of a selfish, greedy king. But now,
with a really sick tongue.
And now we are going from the pyramids of Egypt, I assume / guess, to
now, there are pyramids in Egypt.
The space colony arc, where we are going to talk about the big, the bad, the ugly, the Bio-Lizard.
Bio-Lizard!
Wait, before we get into Bio-Lizard, he actually is getting a Lego set.
Is he really?
Yes. It looks silly, but I kind of love it anyway. No.
Does it look almost as silly as the Team Sonic Racing image of King Boom Boo?
Oh, listen, that scares my nightmares. This is just silly.
Oh man, look at that. Look at the Bio-Lizard. Oh, he's cool looking. I like that. Yeah, he's a little derpy too.
He's a little derpy, but I kind of like it. And
the scale is a little concerning though, because it appears that Shadow and Sonic are like the size of the lizard, which means the Bio-Lizard in Lego form is very, very tiny.
Yeah.
More like a bio-salamander.
So
prototype of the ultimate life form. Oh yeah, little prototype of the life form, yeah.
So Bio-Lizard was a part of the Ultimate Lifeform project being led by Gerald Robotnik, for him partially to help develop a cure for Maria. It's in charge by Gunn. They're the ones ultimately calling the shots. Part of why it's a lizard, I was actually under a misconception of this for the longest time. There are two ultimate life forms. There's Bio-Lizard and there's Shadow. And the reason they're so different, or at least my original idea, Gerald was using the image of perfect chaos versus the super being from like the ancient temples as inspiration for the ultimate life form. So they made one that's like kind of like a quilled hedgehog-like creature and the other a giant serpent.
You're right, because I remember like inside of the Space Colony arc is like a temple that is very similar to Chaos's temple. And if he was taking inspiration from the image of the serpent beast and the little hedgehog, one interpretation is if one of them's the ultimate life form, it could be one or the other. I never thought about that. That's cool.
So that's what I thought, but ultimately, the Bio-Lizard was modeled after a salamander because of their regenerative properties and diminutive size.
Yeah. Because some salamanders, they can just lop their tail off and it just like grows back.
Yep. And we actually have an adorable image here of Maria holding Bio-Lizard. This is from Shadow Generations, and this is absolutely adorable.
Oh my god, that is so cute. So the Bio-Lizard canonically starts teeny tiny.
Oh yeah,
I guess,
because basically part of this experiment is using the chaos drives to power and fuel the Bio-Lizard, and because of this, the Bio-Lizard grows massive in a short amount of time, growing to be 2.7 meters and weighing over 350 kilograms in just a few days.
That's a pretty big lizard. And what are
Unfortunately-
you supposed to do with a lizard of that size?
And unfortunately, this project started kind of failing because they needed to attach a device onto the BioLizard to constantly fuel it with the chaos drives. And also, the BioLizard's mental processes was still that of just a feral animal, so they couldn't really control it. And it got kind of dangerous. So eventually, Gerald kind of moved on from it and then got Black Doom's DNA to work on Shadow. But unfortunately, with some of the reports about how violent BioLizard was, that eventually got leaked to like Gun HQ, and that was why they sent the squads up to the Space Colony Arc to shut everything down.
Oh, so the danger of the BioLizard contributed to that pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? That's what you get when you play around with biology. What do you think you are, Gerald? A god?
Yep, and then basically, yeah, they took Shadow, and BioLizard was left on the Ark to guard the Eclipse Cannon. I believe that was actually done by Gerald.
I'm gonna guess, what else are you gonna do with a big hulking lizard? Like, just let him be. Like, he grew up on the Ark, just let him stay there. What is he gonna do, break out? If so, the vacuum of space will do him in. Or at least that's what you'd think. But I guess we see the BioLizard on the outside nose of the Ark.
Yeah, so
doing just fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's not too entirely out there, considering Sonic and friends can breathe in space. They're fine.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah.
wait a minute. You're right. That's a topic of another time.
This is a thing that is constant throughout a bunch of Sonic media. The Sonic Cinematic Universe, Sonic X, the games, they can breathe in space. They don't need like spacesuits or anything.
And that makes me think too, if they can breathe in space, which seems to imply that they don't require oxygen, why does Sonic drown?
The world may never know.
That feels like a topic of a whole nother episode. Why does Sonic drown?
The science behind why does Sonic drown.
And other inconsistencies in the biology of the Sonic the Hedgehog universe.
So after Sonic Adventure 2 was Sonic Advance.
Oh, the Game Boy games.
Yeah. So Sonic Advance, I believe this was the correct game. I had a Sonic game for the Game Boy where I had 2 physical cartridges, but there was a difference between them. One of them, you couldn't save the game. So you could...
was it a glitch?
Yeah, because you would hit the save game button, and normally it's okay, next time you boot it up, you continue where you left off. But this one, if you hit the save button, you would still start at the beginning of the first stage.
Oh, that's shitty.
Yeah, it sucked. So we actually had to try and remember, it's oh, we're playing a Sonic game. Okay, is it the good one that saves, or is it the bad one that doesn't save?
I feel like you could have just marked one of them with a little X with Sharpie marker.
See, that's what smart people would do. We didn't do that.
Oh, yeah. I get you.
The non-egg boss in this game, we get one. We have Mecha Knuckles.
In Sonic Advance?
Yeah, Sonic Advance.
Oh, no way!
Unlike Metal Sonic, he actually tries to disguise himself as Knuckles. So when you first see Mecha Knuckles, it is you see Knuckles with yellow gloves, except instead of being red, he's more pink.
Yeah, I see that.
After you hit him, he loses the pink facade. His fists are still yellow, but he turns more gray and robotic.
That's so cool looking. I don't think I've ever seen Mecha Knuckles in this way before. I think my only exposure to Mecha Knuckles has been the Scrapnik Island comic that you gave me. I was just about
to say, because I'm it better be a Scrapnik because he was in that. This is one of the few times we've seen Mecha Knuckles, because I knew he was a character, because I don't remember seeing him in this game, but I did remember seeing him in Sonic R, because he was an unlockable character.
In Sonic R?
Yeah.
Was that Mecha Knuckles, or was that a Metal Knuckles?
Oh, okay. I think it was more of a Metal Knuckles than Mecha Knuckles. But still,
because I think
a robotic Knuckles. Because I believe your unlockables, it was Metal Sonic, Mecha Knuckles, or Metal Knuckles, Doll Tails,
Tails Doll,
the Egg Robo, and then Supersonic.
Yeah, it's Metal Knuckles and Metal Sonic.
Okay.
And then the Tails Doll, like the other said there. So it was Metal Knuckles.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a discussion definitely to be had about the mecha versions and the metal versions because they're different. It's interesting that they do seem to remain consistent in the Sonic universe about mecha versus metal.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of interesting, and I'm sure it was intentional.
To show that they are still robotic copies of these characters, but they are not the same. There's some differentiation between the metal and the mecha, which we can probably talk about in a later episode. So that was it for Sonic Advance. And Sonic Advance 2, unfortunately, it's mainly it's all egg stuff.
Yeah, all egg stuff. Do you have a favorite egg stuff so far?
For Sonic Advance 2, I actually didn't read up on them, but I love the name the Egg Frog. But this is not a frog, dude. In what world is this a frog?
What the heck?
This is the Egg Frog.
Actually, I was gonna say like there might be like a redeeming froggy-like quality. Nothing about that seems frog-like.
No, it's not.
It doesn't even look like it jumps.
Yeah, it looks like it hangs on the ceiling.
Why wouldn't they call it? That's more like a monkey than anything else, I guess.
What? The egg monkey, the egg banana.
The egg hanger, it hangs from the ceiling.
Oh, that you're on the naming convention. That's smart. And the next game after the Sonic Advance 2 was Sonic Heroes.
Ooh.
Where we got one unique boss, because it's either the Egg Hawk or Egg Albatross, which are literally the same boss. This was one of my biggest gripes about Heroes. Was just those bosses are essentially the same.
One is a boat and one is a bird, I thought, though, right?
No, they're both birds.
Oh, they're both just birds?
So
the albatross versus hawk, they're both birds. Yeah, that makes sense.
So the hawk is literally just like this bird-shaped plane. The albatross is this bird-shaped plane on top of a blimp. So you have to...
That's what I forget.
Yeah, you have to take out the lower part of the blimp, then you have to take out the higher part of the blimp, and then you just have to fight the egg hawk again. And that's a boss, apparently.
Okay. Yeah, I can see you having gripes with that.
Like, I'm just like, that's not new. I don't know, that feels lazy to me. And your other bosses are either one of the other teams, or you just fight waves of enemies until they stop spawning.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of robos.
And then you have the Egg Emperor, which unfortunately that falls under, it's another Eggman thing. So our only boss is the final boss, who we touched upon last episode, Metal Madness / Metal Overlord, which is Metal Sonic.
So epic.
Which is Neo Metal Sonic transforming himself with the data obtained from not only all the different teams, but also Chaos, getting that Chaos information from Chocolate Chow and Froggy, because Froggy had Chaos's tail. And Metal Madness / Metal Overlord, I'm gonna count them as one and the same, because they have different names, but they're essentially the same thing.
That's fair.
Awesome design. I love this. It's cool, and I wish we had better artwork.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, what we have of Metal Madness, Metal Overlord, Super Neo Metal Sonic, whatever you want to call him, is that animation where he's putting himself together.
Yeah, like ripping apart.
Super early 2000s energy.
Yeah, like ripping apart the base, and the base immediately like flies together, like forming the new parts. Like, the animation in that cutscene, it's so early 2000s, but it's still kind of like, I can see the cool visual effect there.
The lighting on it too was just like wacky, because it was super dark except for random flashes of light.
Yeah, it's also, if I recall correctly, it's also really shaky as well. So it's a little like,
Yeah, it's a little discomforting to watch for photosensitive viewers.
Yeah.
Also, just like Neo Metal Sonic in general, I love how the only difference between Metal Sonic and Neo Metal Sonic, aside from aesthetic design choices, is he's an egotistical maniac.
Yeah, basically. Because he's like, I'm gonna be the new ruler of the world. I am the mechanical overlord. And it's like, dude, you're a freaking robot copy of a blue hedgehog. Shut up and get off your edge.
It's like, can you stay silent like you were previously? I liked you better when you didn't open your mouth. Or rather, I guess when he talked less.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm used to Metal Sonic talking. I remember the Sonic OVA, where he has like there can only be one Sonic, and then he melts.
Dead.
That man is
just
dead.
Like the Terminator.
Well, at least he didn't do like the thumbs up and then melt. The next game following that is actually Sonic Advance 3, which we talked about already, which had Emerald or Gemerald and Ultimate Gemerald.
Oh, I was gonna say, what happened to Sonic Advance 2 again? They were just all egg robots,
Yeah,
right?
that's where we got the Egg Frog.
Just more attachments to the Eggmobile.
Would you rather?
I feel like we should do a whole nother episode on just specific Eggmobile bosses and our favorites.
Or also, they're just egg mechs, like the Egg Bomber Tank, the Egg Totem, the Arrow Egg.
The era of the egg bots. Specifically not egg robos. Completely different.
We're taking an edgy turn down the lane of Shadow the Edgehog.
Disgusting black creatures.
No.
Oh
You're dealing with the egg dealer, the black egg dealer, the egg dealer Doom, the devil egg dealer.
I remember the egg dealer. It's just a slot machine on with
wheels.
with the Joan wheels. It looks so derpy.
It does. So there are other bosses, I swear.
No. I you know what? I just want to cut the episode right there. I want nothing more in my life than the egg dealer staring at me the same way Scorpius haunts my dreams now.
So before we get to the egg dealer, we do have Black Bull, which I don't know if you've seen Black Bull. It's like a really fat bat. It looks like it looks like a blue and red potato with wings. Hate how this thing looks. And I'm pretty sure you have to fight this thing multiple times as well. From Black Bull, the other boss is the Heavy Dog. So this is one of
the other gun robots, right?
Yep, this is a variant of like that same type as like Bigfoot and Flying Dog, except this one is completely like hovering, and this is the style that we saw in Dark Beginnings.
You know, the Heavy Dog is giving me similar vibes to one of the E100 series that is like locked in place, the purple one.
Zeta and Theta.
Zeta? Yeah.
Yeah,
I know they're completely different, but I'm getting similar vibes.
Yeah. Maybe it's because like the wide base, because the big difference here is they're stationary, but this thing flies.
Yeah.
And actually, this one, there's two versions of this you fight. There's the Heavy Dog, then there's the Blue Falcon, which you fight when you're in the past on the Ark. So Gun has had this version of this suit for a while.
For 50 years at least.
Yeah. So it's
interesting.
Surprising that they still use it, because if Dark Beginnings is canon, one of these fights Shadow at the gun base.
Oh, wow.
And this is where like Shadow absolutely destroys it. Omega's salty because he didn't get to destroy it, and the pilot is having problems ejecting, so Shadow breaks the glass and literally like rips out the eject switch, causing the pilot to eject, saving his liime, because Shadow's like, listen, you're in my way, but I'm not going to kill you.
Hey, Shadow's a cool dude. Edgy, but cool.
And then Abraham's just like, you know, if he wanted this, he could have just asked. He doesn't have to destroy millions of dollars worth of gun assets.
What do you want, Shadow? Just talk to me.
And Mercer's just like, dude, do you remember who you're talking about? He's like, yeah, I do. Whatever. Let him fly.
Abraham just like, Shadow, why do you never look me in the eyes? Shadow just turns his head.
I'm also getting flashbacks to the Twitter takeover where Sonic calls Abraham and has him talk to Shadow about like getting together for like food or something.
That was so funny. He's like, you should come over for dinner sometime.
In case you guys haven't seen that, I'll put a link in the description. It's such a good watch. Funny. It is. I think it's like an hour long, or maybe a half hour, but it is worth every second of it. Watching that on my own time as I was painting, I was laughing so much. It was so good. And now we are going into, for me, Spoiler Town. Because...
Ooh, Spoiler Town?
So, I'm skipping over Rush because everything is an egg. And after Rush
Everything's an egg and
was
Rush.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Where we have 3 unique bosses to this game. So we have
Iblis,
Mephiles, and Solaris. So yeah, I had to spoil myself for this, and I'm actually kind of bummed, but whatever. Solaris was this living flame that saved the city of Soliana. And the Duke...
Saved it?
Yes.
Iblis is a good thing?
Yes, because Solaris Excuse me, Soliana. I'm gonna get those two mixed up a lot. Soliana
sure.
praises Solaris, worships it as a god because it saved the city from some disaster. And
Okay.
so instead of Solaris being just, like a god, it's an actual thing. It's the sentient white flame.
Interesting.
And as it grew more powerful, the Duke of Soliana conducted an experiment on it, basically trying to use its power to transcend time or whatever, so he and his daughter could see her mother again. And unfortunately, with the Solaris project, it went kind of haywire, and Solaris split into two different entities. You have Mephiles, which is Solaris's intelligence, and then you have Iblis, which is its wrath, its hatred, its strength.
What is up with prominent monarchs being like, you know what? We've got this great, powerful force. We should use this. And not just, can we just let it be? Like, big, powerful, maybe not necessarily monarchs, right? But like Pachacamac, big, powerful chaos. Yeah, you know what? Let's mess with it. Let's see what happens. Let's poke the bear.
Yeah.
The Soliana, king, let's poke the bear. It saved us. We should try to take more stuff from it.
Yeah.
What the heck, dude? Somebody decided to poke the bio lizard, and it went like.
Yeah. So with these two halves actually end up getting sealed away. Mephiles is sealed inside an apparatus called the Scepter of Darkness, which is funny because in Sonic 06, there's a line where they're referring to the Scepter of Darkness, but they call it like the Book of Darkness. And I remember encountering this in my playthrough and being very confused because we're like,
book?
Me and my friends were like, you mean the scepter, right? Because what's this book you're talking about? So I don't know what happened there. Iblis was sealed inside Princess Elise. And basically, he is sealed inside her. And with the catch being, if she ever cried, Iblis would be released. So that's why she's so emotionally detached from everything. And also,
that's so sad.
Also, why her her father constantly told her not to cry.
It wasn't just a be ladylike, be a good monarch. No. It's literally, if you cry, you will bring about the end of the world.
And of course, he doesn't tell her
That's way
this.
too much pressure.
He doesn't tell her that. He just tells her.
Why can't parents just be honest with their children?
I don't know, man, because drama.
Especially when they harbor great evils inside of them.
Basically, at some point, it gets confusing because time travel's involved. So you have multiple instances of different characters. But essentially, at one point, Mephiles, his plan to reunite with Iblis was foiled because Iblis was destroyed. Or one of the Iblises was destroyed. But the one inside Elise was still there. So what he does is he kills Sonic, so Elise cries, so Iblis is released, so he fuses with Iblis to recreate Solaris, and then Solaris using its infinite power to destroy time and everything, and it fights Super Sonic because he comes back because it's Sonic, Super Shadow and Super Silver, and essentially they can't really beat it because you're fighting a god?
I guess.
So what they end up doing is they send Elise back in time to before the Solaris incident, and back when Solaris was just a sentient white flame, like not strong enough to do anything, and she extinguishes it.
She kills a god?
She kills a god. It's almost like the whole, it's almost like in Avengers Endgame when they joke about going back in time and killing baby Thanos.
Sure.
She does that.
She just does it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you did a pretty great job articulating that, but I'm still so freaking confused.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, she extinguishes it. So the Solaris project never happens. So Mephiles and Iblis literally never exist. But now I'm worried because I'm time
wait
paradox now? Because she'll have memories.
But is Blaze still dead?
Oh yeah, Blaze is still totally dead.
Okay. So if the Solaris project never happened and so-and-so is no longer alive or whatever, is Blaze still dead?
Well, actually,
the answer is yes.
Actually, I don't know. This is why time travel in certain media is really dangerous, because you have all of these problems. That's why you need to set some rules and stick to them. But that is it for Sonic 06. I'm not going to go too much to detail with Mephiles or Iblis.
Please don't. I'm confused. I want out.
Yeah, my brain
I want
hurts.
out of here.
We are going to go into some of Sonic's more creative projects with these modern games. Sonic and the Secret Rings. Do you remember this game?
That was a part of the storybook series that never got all of its games, right?
It only got 2. Unfortunately.
Was it supposed to have like 7 or something?
I think so. I think that was the idea, but we only got 2. We got Sonic and the Secret Rings, and then we got Sonic and the Black Knight. And I really liked Black Knight. And Secret Rings, I actually didn't play it that much. I did play the party mode though, and that was actually pretty fun.
I only watched a little bit of gameplay of somebody who was over one day playing Sonic and the Secret Rings, and I remember being like, "Oh, I've never seen this Sonic game before," and they were like, "You don't have to." And that's the only memory I have of it. And I've done a little bit of research, but I know it's based off of the Arabian Nights, I'm pretty sure, right?
So we have a bunch of different bosses. The first one is the Sand Scorpion. The big bad of the game is Razor Jin, which we talked about briefly in a previous episode. His plan is to destroy the Arabian Nights to rewrite it so he can escape this storybook and cause chaos and mayhem to Sonic's world, which for all intents and purposes, I'll call the real world.
Sure. Yeah, that tracks.
So
that tracks.
Sand Scorpion was the first boss, and it's a scorpion. Actually, it is technically a scorpion. I just counted the limbs to double check, and it is.
It's got 6 legs and 2 tails.
It's got
and it's got eyeballs all over it.
It's got Legend of Zelda energy.
Like a Goma.
Again, all the eyeballs and stuff. I'm just like, oh yeah, you get your bow and you shoot the eyes, and that's how you kill it.
Yeah, you get your hedgehog and you shoot your quills into the eyes, right? Right?
No, you just you whack it and then it dies.
Classic Sonic. The bosses from this game are very interesting looking.
Again, this is why I like these games, is because they are their own standalone story in a way, in their own made-up world. The creative team can do whatever they want. They're not limited to just robots. They can make them monsters and enemies whatever they want. And it's interesting too, the next boss, Captain Behemoth, which is a weird jellyfish kind of, I'm looking at this
it's
and
Cthulhu-like.
I'm not even sure what I'm looking at.
It's got little tentacles from its mouth and blue like water wings.
Yeah, and those green things on the top, I believe, are horns. And Sonic rips those out and Behemoth is defeated. But the interesting thing though is Behemoth is defeated, not killed. He is defeated when Sonic pulls out his horns, which are his source of power. However, it is implied that Behemoth is not killed.
So what happens?
If you rip his horns out, he just you get what you need, and he just kind of gone. He's done. He's like, yeah, this isn't worth dying for. Okay, you took my power. Yeah, you don't need to kill me. Because again, Sonic doesn't kill unless he has to.
Are you implying that the boss Behemoth just chose not to die, or Sonic let him live?
I think it's Sonic let him live, because once he took out his horns, the horns were the source of his power, so he couldn't really do much once Sonic broke them. And if he was just guarding the thing that Sonic needs, Sonic doesn't need to kill him. He only kills unless he has to.
And then he just walks past them, I guess.
Yeah.
Huh, that's interesting. Good on you, Sonic, for not being a murderous, rampaging hedgehog like Shadow is.
It's interesting what I kind of briefly said earlier, how a lot of the enemies here are less robotic because they're not bound by that limitation. The next boss actually is surprisingly robotic. It is the Ifrit Golem. It's very mechanical, and essentially it's to burn the last of the pages of the Arabian Nights, so that way Razor Jin can go free. But obviously Sonic stops him. And again, although they call this thing a golem,
it's cool looking.
Yeah, so golems, I'm used to them being like traditionally like rock, but I have seen iterations where they are using golem as essentially like a magical robot per se.
Yeah, because it looks very much like a mecha of sorts.
Yeah, and that's even what it's saying here is like, it's like, oh yeah, unlike the rest of the enemies, it looks very mechanical. And this name is kind of annoying because there's a different boss from a different game we'll talk about in a bit, just called Ifrit. So I don't know if you saw the wiki.
And it's not this guy.
Correct. So I don't know if you saw, because sometimes when you go on one of the pages, it's like, oh, this is the page for Ifrit. Did you mean Ifrit Golem or vice versa? Because they are two
and you were like, wait
bosses.
a minute.
Once you are done the Ifrit Golem, the last boss is a Razor Jin, which again, he's just,
this guy.
Yeah, the purple guy. He
looks like Thanos.
He kind of reminds me of the guy with 2 mouths from Tak and the Power of Juju series. There was a big fat purple dude, and that's what this dude reminds me of.
Yeah, dude, he's just the buff purple dude with red hair. He's got Thanos vibes mixed with like Ganondorf vibes.
I could see that. He is the genie from the Genie of the Lamp, who was sealed away because he was bad and mischievous, but was to be free if he granted the wishes of 1,001 people. And when he did, he was like, wow, I hate people even more than I used to. I want to find the person who wrote my story and kill him.
And so the story continues.
So yeah, he was transforming the story of Arabian Nights to the point where he could dictate how the story is told and basically try to use that to connect to the bridge, to connect to the real world. And unfortunately for him, he's kind of like defeated by Sonic.
Naturally.
And then Sonic's ring companion was actually working for him the whole time, and he persuades her to give him the rings, and he transforms into Layla Wa Layla. One, I hate that name because it's annoying to say. Two, what? Listen, I'm just gonna send you an image of this guy.
Oh, this dude's got arms.
Yeah.
Check this guy out.
Dude, look at that waistline, though. Like,
oh my gosh.
Them hips, bro.
The hourglass figure that men crave.
So, by the way, at the top there, I had to get a close-up shot. That is 3 eyes and a mouth in the center.
Oh, is that what that is? Those are eyeballs?
Yes.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's wisp energy in a way that I've never wanted to witness it. Evidently, I was curious what Layla Wa Layla means, and apparently that's the original name of the Arabian Nights in Arabic. Layla Wa Layla.
His transformation required a sacrifice. He was going to use Sonic, but instead used the ring companion. I just remember her name. It's Shara. And so she dies. Sonic is sad. So the world rings of sadness, rage, and hatred fuse with Sonic, and he becomes Darkspine Sonic, which this looks like a fan OC thing, and that's what I thought this design was when I first saw it. I didn't realize this was a real thing.
This is another Sonic transformation?
Yes, the Darkspine.
Not to be confused with Dark Sonic, apparently.
Yeah, so Darkspine Sonic goes and defeats Layla La Layla.
That's a really cool looking transformation. It's like Sonic got transformed with like one of those Formula One cars.
Honestly, I like this idea of Sonic having 2 transformations. Like, one is the good heroic and the other is dark and evil. Part of me feels like they tried to do that with the Werehog stuff, but
yeah,
I don't know. That just didn't vibe with me. This vibes a lot better, especially because this is like in a way close to a super transformation. So it's the dark counterpoint to Supersonic.
And it's interesting too. I see at the bottom of the Darkspine page that this is one of 3 transformations that Sonic undergoes unintentionally. Darkspine, Excalibur, and technically the Werehog form.
Yeah, that is it for Sonic and his 7 rings. They are no longer in his hand. I did want to briefly mention Sonic Rush Adventure. All of the bosses here are collab projects between Dr. Eggman and Eggman Nega. So we have the Ghost Rex, the Ghost Pendulum, the Ghost Kraken, the Ghost Pirate, except a lot of them are already pirates, so that's a little weird.
Very pirate themed in that game from what I've seen so far.
Yes, it's a lot of seafaring pirate adventure. It's awesome. The Ghost Whale, the Ghost Condor, Captain Whisker and Johnny, and the Ghost Titan. And then, are you expecting another ghost? Are you expecting one? Because you're wrong.
Boo!
It's the Egg Wizard. Remember the robot?
All right, keep talking.
It was the robot that they designed to take the Staff of Stars and have the ability to undo universes and stuff.
Oh, Power of the Stars, right? We've talked about this before.
Yep, that's where it came from. And that was defeated by Burning Sonic and Super Blaze. Do you remember the game Sonic Rivals 2?
I'm not familiar with Sonic Rivals basically at all, but I know we've mentioned them.
Sonic Rivals is a racing game. Sonic Rivals 2, a racing game, has bosses.
Okay.
All of them are eggs except for one, Ifrit.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Ifrit Golem.
That's true. That's what you were mentioning previously.
Ifrit is a being from another universe that is very destructive, who apparently was documented by Gerald Robotnik somehow. Basically, it destroyed its own dimension. Gerald found out about it and basically documented a bunch of it. Eggman Nega found Gerald's notes and wanted to release it and utilize it. And apparently apparently Ifrit here feeds on chow.
Oh, that's not cool, man.
Yeah, so
That's not cool.
Nega was feeding him chow to make him invincible.
So wait, I thought Negative Eggman was in the Rush adventure game, right?
Yes, he's in the Rush
Also
games.
in Rivals 2?
Yes.
Interesting.
I do like that, the fact that we have this villain from another universe, but we've used them in multiple different games. I like that. I like having reoccurring villains who are not just like our basic villain.
Yeah. They're cooler versions of our villains.
Yeah,
Because they swapped his color palette.
He even had his own Metal Sonic. He had Metal Sonic 3.0, which in terms of design, or at least coloration, looks very similar to Gemrol. I'm sending
Oh my gosh, it totally does.
Yeah.
Check that out.
But yeah, basically he used that to try and get Ifrit into Sonic's world. And by that, he used Metal Sonic as a distraction while he actually went and awoke Ifrit. But
that's cool.
Ifrit is obviously defeated. Everyone gets out and the portal is sealed, keeping it trapped with Eggman Nega in the Chaotic Inferno, which is Ifrit's dimension.
Oh, no. The dimension that was allegedly destroyed by Ifrit?
Yep.
Incredible.
So yeah, they sealed Eggman Nega in there with him. Sucks, nerd.
So Blaze is still dead, right?
Listen,
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. She's dead. She's fine.
Oh my gosh. R.I.P. Blaze the cat.
R.I.P. We'll see you in the next Olympic Games, though. We'll bring her back just for those, and that's it. And our next game is Sonic Unleashed. We actually have a bunch of different mini bosses that are spawn of Dark Gaia. So Dark Gaia is our overarching big bad that Eggman went, I'm gonna break the earth again, to basically try to prematurely awake Dark Gaia for it to destroy the world so he can make his Eggman land.
The last time Eggman broke the earth, that was one of the Sonic Advance games, I think, right?
Yeah, I believe it was it Sonic Advance 3?
I think it was 3. I think that's when we had Gemrel. Eggman, what is the purpose?
So
actually, I think I kind of understand where Eggman's coming from, because his mentality was, if I want to take over the world, it might be easier to take over the world in pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
think smarter.
The world is in pieces. Eggman extracted the energy from Supersonic to destroy the world, and that was how we got not only the world crack and Dark Gaia 3, but not fully awake because it's premature, but that's how we also got the Werehog. And Dark Gaia's influence has made a bunch of different bosses. Some are like mini bosses, others are not.
Cool.
So like Titan, Big Mother are both mini bosses. In terms of bosses, we do have we have a mix of egg stuff from like the daytime Sonic, but a lot of the Gaia mini bosses, like the Dark Gaia Phoenix, are in nighttime when you're the Werehog.
There's a different boss in the morning than there is in the afternoon, right?
Correct.
Oh, that's cool.
And of course, the big bad Dark Gaia is woken up near the end, so not Supersonic, but your Gaia temple mech suit thing basically gets in a boxing match with Dark Gaia, if I remember correctly, which is so dumb.
Dude, Dark Gaia looks super cool though.
It's okay. I don't know. He didn't click anything for me.
He's got like that. It's just long mouth energy. Very long mouth energy.
Well, have you seen
Dark Gaia's got like a mustache that's a mouth.
What do you like better, Dark Gaia or Perfect Dark Gaia?
No. I think it's just I guess Perfect Dark Gaia. Perfect Dark Gaia's got the thing. Dark Gaia's got that energy of I'm from the earth. The big chin and the very small pinhole eyes.
Yeah, Dark Gaia goes perfect, fully awakened, and then with the power of Light Gaia and the temple and Supersonic, he is defeated, Earth is all fixed up, and everything's all hunky-dory.
Everybody happy!
Everybody happy! And then we go back into the storybook. We go to Sonic and the Black Knight. None of the bosses here are Eggman related because it is a storybook.
And even if they were, they're not technically Eggman. They are story counterparts of Eggman.
Actually, I don't think Eggman even has a story counterpart in this one. So for bosses,
alrighty then.
There's actually 2 different dragons you have to fight, and they don't have much lore. One of them, the wizard you're with, basically throws it at you because it's like, I want to see if you really are that strong. And that's the Mist Dragon. And then later you have to fight basically the same thing, but it's earth instead of mist. And I remember the earth one is actually kind of a pain. If you're familiar with Game Grumps, that is where we get the unavoidable chin move. And it sucks. My friend rage quit the game because of the unavoidable chin move. There's
Specifically in Sonic and the Black Knight?
Yes, because
wow.
It is a unavoidable chin move. There is a trick to it. I don't remember what it is, but I know there's a trick that you have to do something like before it does the move. Otherwise, it's unavoidable. We also have Sir Lancelot, Sir Gawain, and Sir Percival, which they are the knightly versions of Shadow, Knuckles, and Blaze, respectively.
Yeah.
We do have other...
Wait, so Blaze is not dead?
Not dead for this
Not dead, just reanimated in another story completely.
Which I do like that having versions of existing characters, but like playing parts in the storybook series. So like in Seven Knights, there was a king, blah, 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 I forget his name, who that was like their Eggman, or Alibaba was Tails.
Yeah,
but here, like, Tails is a blacksmith. Amy is like the Lady of the Lake, if I recall correctly. And we have two more knights as well. I don't remember their names, but it is Jet the Hawk and Silver, which that's actually really interesting to me, because I believe that is the first instance we got like Jet outside of a Sonic Riders game and not in a Olympic Games, because I don't remember if he's in those or not.
I didn't realize that Jet the Hawk was in this one.
Yeah.
Sir Lamorak.
Yep.
Cool.
Only available in the multiplayer, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But the multiplayer was hecka fun. King Arthur is so broken in that game. No, seriously, like each character, it's basically kind of like a top-down free-for-all fighting.
Okay.
And his super attack is a lightning vortex from his sword that takes up the entire ring.
Lol, okay.
Yeah, King Arthur is
That's a lot.
busted. And it's interesting. So digging into King Arthur in this universe, the King Arthur you fight was essentially not even real. He was basically an illusion created by Merlin to basically bring peace and justice and order to the realm. And basically, if you're familiar with the story of King Arthur, basically kind of goes through those same steps, except when he got Excalibur and its scabbard, which, if you're not familiar with the scabbard of Excalibur, the wielder of the scabbard becomes immortal. This scabbard somehow corrupted the illusion of King Arthur and turned him into this knight of the underworld, making his knights of the underworld take over the realm.
Oh, spooky.
And no one did anything about it. He even took Excalibur, threw it away, and got a new blade called Death Caliber.
Oh, that's the big one with the red spikes on it.
Yes.
That's a cool looking sword.
Because King Arthur is in charge of the Knights of the Round Table and had relationships with those knights, that's why even though they noticed a change, they didn't step in to challenge him, because they still had loyalty to their king. And that's part of what Sonic is doing in the game, is he's trying to open your eyes, sheeple. He's evil. He's ruining your world.
Oh my gosh.
No.
He's evil.
He's evil.
Look at him. That sword's not nice.
It's not the sword, it's the scabbard.
Oh, excuse me.
So Sonic eventually defeats Arthur because he gets King Arthur away from the scabbard. Arthur dies. He basically almost like turns into smoke because he was an illusion. He wasn't real, which
never really existed on his own to begin with.
Exactly. And then Merlina, that's the person you're with, takes the scabbard and she becomes evil. Spoiler warning, because she wants to, she comes to the realization that the world will eventually end, as all life does. And she wants to use the scabbard's power to make the entire world and everything in it immortal.
Feels bad.
And basically is spreading darkness and the Knights of the Underworld, basically continuing what King Arthur was doing. And so
oh man, that's not safe.
So Sonic and Lancelot, Gawain, and Percival activate some rock things to kind of stop her in her plan, and then Sonic goes toe-to-toe with her. Well, first time he went toe-to-toe with her, he got his butt kicked and his sword Caliburn snapped. And
like broke?
Caliburn is a sentient sword. He talks to you. So, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he snaps.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he is shattered. But then,
Imagine having your back broken.
oh,
It's just split in two. Oh no.
Oh, God.
Caliburn.
oh, Caliburn, oh no! With the power of the sacred swords and their sacred rocks, Sonic transforms into
Like Excalibur Sonic?
yeah, Excalibur Sonic, thank you. So Caliburn transforms into Excalibur because spoiler warning, that's what he was the whole time. Excalibur Sonic and goes and defeats the Dark Queen. This is very interesting here, how like what they imply about the concept of being immortal, how it corrupts. Because again, King Arthur followed what Merlin ordered him to do to the letter, and everything was fine and good until he got that scabbard. Then it corrupted him. And Merlina, well, I mean, I don't know if it technically corrupted her. It was kind of her goal the whole time to steal the scabbard to make the world immortal. What Sonic tells her is basically, it's like, listen, like life starts and life ends. That's what gives it meaning. I don't know. I feel like there's something deep there to be said about that.
I mean, it's pretty profound for a Sonic game, all things considered.
Also, the music for Black Knight slaps. Night of the Wind is great. I like Fight the Knight, which is the theme for when you fight King Arthur or any of the knights.
Nice. Dude, Crush 40 killed it in this one.
Yep. I feel like this was like one of the last times they did music for Sonic games. The next two games after this were Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1 and Sonic Colors, which all of them are again Eggman robots, which are what I'm kind of trying to dance around because Eggman robots are in every Sonic game.
Yeah.
Except,
and like Sonic the Hedgehog 4 episode, I think 1 and 2 are basically like modern retakes of the classic ones, which mostly had a lot of egg robots to begin with.
Yeah. The only exception to this is the DS version of Sonic Colors. I remember we talked about it. We didn't go into too much detail. The final boss of the DS version is the Nega Mother Wisp, not the Nega Wisp armor in Sonic Colors.
And we talked about the Nega Mother Wisp a little bit when we were doing our Wisp episode.
We did, because she generated negative hypergoon energy.
Yeah.
And I think this is one thing that some games did that I actually really liked is you had a game for like two different consoles, but like they weren't exactly the same game. There were differences between the consoles, not only from like gameplay perspectives, but also like actual bosses and things you have to fight. I like that. I love that detail.
There was a piece of me when I was younger that felt that it was almost unfair that I would have to get 2 different games or even 3 different games in some cases to get the full gameplay experience. I don't worry so much about 100% in games much anymore. But at the time, it was deeply disconcerting to me. I was looking at Crush 40's page to see what other like songs they did after the fact, and apparently they really didn't do too much. They did Sonic Freeriders, a little bit of Team Sonic Racing, and then just reduxes of the newest film, as well as Shadow Generations.
Aw, that makes me sad because I love Crush 40. A lot of those songs slap. Last boss I want to talk about is from Sonic Generations, and this is Time Eater.
Oh, man.
Time Eater, I actually didn't really know much about. So Time Eater was this like primordial entity that Eggman found after Sonic Colors.
He was like floating in space, I think.
Yeah, and basically found it. He took a page from 40K, and it's like, this primordial essence, I'm gonna give it a mechanical body. So he did. Part of it was so he could try and control it, and basically use Time Eater. Well, at first he wanted to erase all of his failures from the past, but then he's like, you know what? If I just use this to kill Sonic and Classic Sonic, I erase them from existence permanently. I can't lose. But of course, Sonic and Classic Sonic team up, defeat the Time Eater, and with that, to crush the hopes and dreams of not only modern Eggman, but also classic Eggman. And yeah, when the Sonics transform and turn into Super Sonics, they defeat the Time Eater and basically undo everything that it did.
And then the timeline is restored until Shadow Generations comes along, apparently.
Yeah, because it's still around, apparently. It's back?
It's back and hungrier than ever.
Because I see here that it pulls Omega and Big the Cat into white space, which I guess is the dimension that it gets sealed in. White space is an unstable dimension where it's basically like a combination of different dimensions, if I recall correctly. Because Black Doom is around there too, around the Black Moon, which is an object in white space. And
yeah, oh, that's new stuff.
And he's imbuing Shadow with some of the Doom powers in an attempt to take over his body and soul.
Oh, classic, dude. Classic.
Well, it makes sense. Like, hey, here's some powers, and with those powers are more Black Arm's influence, and yeah, try to take over that, or use that influence to take over Shadow. Like, that's not unheard of. I've seen that trope done in other media. So good on, you know what? Good on Black Doom. You know, not being dead and trying to take over. Good on you, man.
Go get him, Doom.
But we are not talking about Sonic X Shadow Generations. We are done.
It was a lot of games.
That
was
was
a lot of stuff.
18 games.
That's a pretty good overview of all the different bosses and stuff too.
Thank you.
So like along the way, like have we found anything that like, I don't know, anything that we want to look deeper into? We were making a lot of jokes about Blaze the Cat.
Do we want to do a Blaze the Cat episode?
So like the question still remains, Lycos. Is Blaze the Cat still dead?
Schrodinger's Blaze.
Schrodinger's Blaze?
Is
Blaze the Cat dead and alive at the same time? After all that, that's the only question still left in my mind.
We'll find
Is
out.
Blaze the Cat still dead?
Next time, let's burn some cats, learn about Australia, I mean the Soul Dimension, and have some fun along the way.
Say burn cats.
Her super form is Burning Blaze. She is literally a cat on fire.
Next time. Thanks so much, everybody.
Yep, thank you so
Thanks so much for
We'll
watching the LoreX podcast, y'all.
Later, guys.
Don't set your cats on fire.